This is a BSR Century number 5, actually fairly common. Always glad to have another one, especially with Christmas coming. This I've been looking forward to cleaning up and using, and that is a BSR muffin pan. You can tell because of the triangular shape of the handle. It seems like all of these companies had their muffin and cornbread pans with unique handles, which helps make it easier to identify. Has a Made in USA mark. So again, this means it's a Century. And this is what I have really wanted. And this is a BSR number 10 cast iron skillet. It is still a Century, and there is nothing wrong with that because, yeah, a 12-inch BSR cast iron skillet is something I'm very much looking forward to using. Let's clean these up and see how they look.
I was emptying out the lye tank for the winter, and I came across these 3 pieces from Birmingham Stove Range that had sat there after I had acquired these at different times over the past year.
Now this one had a lot of use.
And I'm really looking forward to using these after cleaning them up, especially the number 10 size skillet. BSR pieces are very common even these days, and you can find them all over the place, but it's still not very often that you come across a 12-inch skillet from BSR. And so we go at these pieces using elbow grease and my favorite cast iron cleaning solution, Barkeeper's Friend.
Not bad at all, considering all I used was lye, elbow grease, and Barkeeper's Friend. And this is probably good enough, especially since I'm going to be using it myself. So, next, the main thing right now is to stop flash rust from setting in. And we do that by covering every inch with a nice layer of Crisco.
This is not actually seasoning the pan. We're not burning the Crisco onto the pan at this time. That's going to come later when we season it in the oven.
And a little bit on the handle, of course. And that will keep it fresh until it's time to actually season it. And now, next. Well, this is going to be a fun one.
If you thought cleaning a cornbread pan was fun with all the little nooks and crannies, wait until you try cleaning the bottom of a muffin pan. It's nearly impossible to reach those little crevices on the inside. I haven't had this much fun since I went to the dentist.
Not bad.
And just like before, we dry it off and coat every bit of it with Crisco.
Not bad. I already tested this for lead too, so I know it's safe. Finally, the last one, and the easiest one.
Compared with cleaning that muffin pan, cleaning this BSR number 5 is a walk in the park. Now that the hard part is done, here comes the easy part, which will take up the rest of the day, seasoning these pans in the oven. This method of preheating the cast iron before adding the seasoning was developed by my friend the culinary fanatic. And now we get to break out my favorite cast iron seasoning, Crisbee. Crisbee came out before Buzzy Wax and Easy Beezy cast iron seasoning, and I still enjoy using it. The trick to this method is to coat the entire pan with the seasoning, top and bottom, and then we wipe it off. Wiping it off with paper towels won't completely erase every trace of it. There will still be a thin layer of seasoning on the pan, and because it's only a thin layer, it won't be too thick and it won't have a blotched or spotty look when the pan is done seasoning. Did I mention how seasoning this muffin pan would be so much fun?
Notice how this one has a rough inside instead of the polished, smooth ones that we've seen on a number of BSR. I'd heard from former BSR employees that actually the polished, smooth ones, they were made especially to sell at a higher price, and these ones were considered to be, they were produced to be sold cheaper. Still works fine. No worse than a modern-day lodge, and it seasons very nicely.
Next, we heat the pans to 300 degrees, and here's a little trick I learned on my own. At this intermediate stage, we don't have to wipe off every inch of every pan here. All we do is wipe off those parts of these pans that actually have a polished, smooth surface. I found it's actually not necessary to give a second wipe to those parts of the pans that have a rougher surface. And finally, we heat up the pans to just over 400 degrees and leave it at that temperature for an hour and a half. It takes about an hour or so for the seasoning to completely finish carbonizing, or burning as you might say. And then after an hour and a half, we turn the stovetop temperature off and just wait half an hour.
This is still plenty hot. Still, we are off to a good start. Now for the second coating.
The pans are still very hot when we start applying the second coat. This way the seasoning will melt on immediately, and we can apply the next coat without having to wait a long time.
And now we do it again.
And once again, we heat the pans up to just over 300 degrees, and all we have to do is wipe down the smooth surface of the BSR number 12 skillet. And finally, after heating the pans up to 400 degrees and letting them season for an hour and a half, the pans are ready for use. Here we have our Century Series number 5, the BSR muffin pan, and especially the number 10 size skillet, which you can be sure will be getting a lot of use in my kitchen for a long time to come.